Let's get something straight. The media lying for you does not mean they care about your well-being. It never has. It never will. What it means is a pact is being honored. And a pact? A pact is not love. A pact is not loyalty. A pact is mutual usefulness. Because the same media that protects you today is the same media that will eviscerate you tomorrow the second you stop serving the narrative. They'll flip the script faster than you can refresh your feed. The headlines that once sang your praises will become ammunition. The narratives that once sheltered you will become weapons. And here's the brutal part. The institution doesn't even have to apologize for the whiplash. It just moves on to the next cycle, the next scandal, the next convenient target. So when you see favourable coverage, when you see the press suddenly softening their stance or conveniently looking the other way, don't celebrate. Don't think you've won them over. Don't mistake strategic silence for genuine support. Because real support doesn't come from newsrooms. It comes from people. It comes from those who see you, not the symbol you represent. The media's protection is transactional, temporary, and terminable the moment the deal changes. And it always changes. When the media lies for you, don't confuse it with care. Let's get something straight. The media lying for you does not mean they care about your well-being. It never has. It never will. What it means is a pact is being honored. And here's the brutal truth nobody wants to admit. A pact is not love. It's not loyalty. It's mutual usefulness. The same media that wraps you in protection today is the exact same media that will tear you apart tomorrow the second you stop serving the narrative they need you to serve. Protection today does not guarantee mercy tomorrow. It guarantees nothing but a temporary truce. Because the moment the narrative shifts, the moment you become inconvenient, the moment you're no longer useful, that pact dissolves instantly. The headlines flip, the tone changes. The institutions that defended you yesterday will eviscerate you today without hesitation, without guilt, without so much as a backward glance. And here's what keeps most people trapped. They mistake media silence for loyalty, media praise for safety, media protection for actual care. It's none of those things. It's a transaction, a business deal, an exchange of usefulness that lasts exactly as long as both parties benefit. The second that equation changes, the second one side stops serving the other, mutual usefulness ends and the knives come out. Don't be naive about it. This isn't random. This isn't accidental. This is how the machine works. When real support never makes headlines. Here's what separates the wheat from the chaff. Real support doesn't announce itself, doesn't perform for cameras, doesn't need validation from tabloid spreads or trending hashtags. Meghan's been battered by the machine for years, absolutely demolished by coordinated smears that would have broken most people. Yet her actual support, not the conditional royal adjacent kind, but the genuine human kind, has only deepened. Why? Because people who see her see a person, not a symbol. They're not invested in the crown, the title, the fairy tale narrative the media tried to sell them. They rooted for her when the headlines were nuclear, and they'll root for her when the headlines flip again, because their investment was never in the optics. It was in the human being navigating an impossible system. The so-called superfans of institutions, they're not fans of people. They're fans of power, proximity, and the carefully curated image that evaporates the second the machine decides it's done with you. But Meghan's people aren't waiting for permission slips from the press. They're not checking tabloids to figure out how to feel. They watched someone get dragged relentlessly and chose to show up anyway. That's not fandom, that's solidarity. That's the kind of backing no headline can manufacture, and it's also the kind no smear campaign can fully destroy. When the institution whispers, the game shifts. Now suddenly the tone is changing. The same British press apparatus that once wrapped her in protective silence is starting to side-eye, question and subtly plant seeds of doubt. And don't be naive about what that means. This doesn't happen by accident. This is not random noise from rogue tabloids. This is a sanctioned pivot, orchestrated from the top down, the kind of shift that only occurs when institutional approval has been granted. The media doesn't shift narratives without marching orders. The pact that protected her yesterday is the same pact that's slowly withdrawing its shield today. And that withdrawal, it's deliberate, it's calculated. The tides are turning with full institutional blessing, and when you understand how the machine actually works, you realize that the most dangerous moment isn't when they attack. It's when they stop defending, when they go quiet, when they let the whispers begin. That's when you know the game has changed. When the institution gets nervous, the optics machine kicks in. People aren't diagnosing, they're noticing. And there's a difference. Viewers are observing physical details, asking questions, circulating observations without claiming medical expertise. Why does the walk look unsteady? Why the towering heels when she's already tall? Why does it look like someone uncomfortable in their own body? Some say exhaustion, some say strain, some say the heels are just too high. But here's the key point. These observations are being to circulate, and media doesn't allow anything without reason. When the institution is confident, it doesn't need optics. When it's nervous, it floods the zone with controlled visibility. That car moment wasn't candid. It was a staged 15-second reassurance clip. A look, she's fine moment. The fact that they felt the need to plant it, to manage the narrative so carefully, to create that exact visual in that exact moment. That's not confidence. That's damage control. That's institutional nervousness on full display. And the British media machine? It's terrible at hiding it when the pact starts to shift. When optics replace. Confidence, the illusion of control. That 15-second car moment wasn't journalism. It was damage control dressed up as candor. A controlled visual, perfectly framed, perfectly timed, designed to whisper reassurance to anyone paying attention. And here's what matters. Reassurance clips don't exist when institutions are actually secure. Confident institutions don't need optics management. They don't stage glimpses. They don't engineer moments of normalcy for public consumption. When you're watching a carefully curated 15 seconds, you're not watching reality. You're watching institutional anxiety in real time. The media doesn't suddenly soften the narrative, doesn't suddenly provide these convenient clips, unless someone inside the machinery is nervous. Very nervous. Because the moment an institution starts manufacturing reassurance, it's already admitted something is wrong. It's stopped trusting time, stopped trusting silence, stopped trusting the natural rhythm of things. Instead, it's reaching for the only tool left, the illusion. And that illusion, that staged glimpse, that controlled visual, it tells you everything you need to know about what's actually happening behind closed doors. When the crown turns, the expiration date of conditional love. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to whisper in the palace corridors. She does not have fans. She has conditional supporters. Loyalty that evaporates the moment the cameras shift. The same media that wrapped her in flattery, that built her up as the perfect symbol of dutiful grace, will dismantle her with surgical precision the second proximity to power disappears. If the institution crumbles, if the utility expires, if she becomes a liability instead of an asset. Those so-called devotees will pivot without hesitation. Watch it happen in real time. The headlines will rebrand her overnight, the language will flip from graceful to burden, from steadfast to problematic, and the masses will follow like clockwork because they were never supporting a person. They were supporting a narrative. They were supporting an idea of royalty, not the human being trapped inside it. The pact dissolves, the debt comes due, and suddenly she'll discover what Meghan already knows. That media protection is not kindness, it's currency. And when you stop being profitable, the British machine collects what it's owed. The tides are already turning, and history doesn't forget who abandons ship first. When the machine works, the cycle. Nobody talks about. Here's what they don't want you to understand. British media doesn't protect women, it uses them. And there's a massive difference. The pact is simple. As long as you're useful to the narrative, you get the velvet glove treatment. But the second that usefulness expires, the machine collects what it's owed. Look at the pattern. Women are elevated, celebrated, wrapped in sympathetic headlines. Not because the media cares, but because those women are serving a purpose. Their symbols, their ratings, their leverage. And then, inevitably, the pact ends. The narrative shifts. The same outlets that once defended her will dismantle her with surgical precision. History shows us exactly how this repeats. Catherine gets the protection until she doesn't. Meghan got the smear campaign until real people, not fans, real people, saw through it. And now, watch what happens next. The media doesn't change its playbook, it just changes which woman is valuable and which one has become expendable. That's not journalism. That's not care. That's debt collection, dressed up as breaking news. And every single time, women are left wondering why the same people who praised them yesterday are sharpening their knives today. When the media lies for you, don't confuse it with care. Here's the brutal truth they don't want you to understand. Media silence is not kindness, it's a contract. When the press goes quiet about someone's struggles, it's not protection. It's a strategic pause before the next move. And media praise? That's not safety either. That's a transaction dressed up as care, a temporary arrangement that dissolves the moment you stop being useful to the narrative. The system doesn't love you. It rents you. It borrows your image, your credibility, your humanity, and then returns it damaged when the deal expires. You'll see it happening around you constantly. Today's golden child becomes tomorrow's cautionary tale, not because the facts changed, but because the pact did. The same outlets that wrapped someone in protective silence will strip them bare in a heartbeat, and their so-called supporters will follow like trained dogs, switching their loyalty the instant the institution signals its time. Never confuse propaganda with genuine care. Propaganda is efficient. It works on command. It bends with the wind. But real support, that comes from people who see you as human, not as a symbol to project their fantasies onto. The media doesn't deal in humanity. It deals in optics, angles and leverage. So stay alert. Stay critical. Watch what they're not saying as closely as what they are. Because when the tides turn, and they always do, you'll understand that the silence was never protection. It was just a longer version of the knife.